What's going on, everybody? My name is Ben and welcome back to the bench for a brand new episode here on Military Mondays. We are just coming in off of that P39 by Edward. We still have one more left to go, but I'm going to go ahead and build that on a different video series. I have a different idea for that particular project. We're going to go ahead and roll into a new build. Now, this is something I've really wanted to build for some time. We're moving into the Cold War, which is another favorite area of aviation. Let's go ahead and check it out. We're going to be building this right here. This is the MiG-23M Flogger B by Trumpeter, of course 1/48 scale. Now, I don't know much about the MiG-23. I know it's a really cool looking fighter jet, but I really don't know much about it. And I'm excited to go ahead and jump in and learn a little bit more about the aircraft because, well, references and all that, but also get a chance to build a really cool looking Cold War warrior. So let's go ahead and just jump into the box. And as you can see from the outside, we've got standard weapons. We've got the aircraft itself. We only have one paint and color scheme for this, which is unusual. But let's just go ahead and jump in here and check out what we have in the box. Now, upon opening the box, you are met with a lot of parts here. We've got a little side section for the more delicate and important parts like the intakes, canopies, all that good stuff. And then the center here is our main aircraft kit parts. So let's go ahead and let's zoom in and let's take a look at some of these pieces. Now, first off, we got to say that these parts look really, really clean. They've got a lot of nice recessed panel lines. We've got different details like the rear air brake well. That is actually very well detailed. We have different panels and pieces that will be sub-assemblies like the wheelbase, the intakes, the cockpit, all that normal jazz. And then of course our parts and pieces on the inside like the ejection seat. I don't know how accurate it is because I haven't done much research yet just on it, but from what I can see here in the box, the parts look clean, they look crisp, very nicely molded. So I'm hoping that they're fairly accurate. If not, we can always add in wires and different parts and whatnot. We already have a lot of detail here though, so I'm hoping we won't have to do too much work. Now, as you can see here, we do have areas like our wheelbase, which we could add in extra wires and pipes, which I might do. Moving on to the next sprue, we've got our landing gears, we've got our different internal parts and pieces of our tail, and Trumpeter has wrapped these up with a little bit of softer styrofoam just to make sure that they don't get damaged in shipping or transit, so I do appreciate that. They look very good though, by the way. Moving on, of course, we've got our instrument panel right here, and it looks pretty detailed. We have to double check for accuracy, but I like the look of it so far. Front nose wheel, as well as fins and all that tail surface detail. We do have our main top portion of the fuselage. This is a swing wing aircraft, so we have a little bit of a different design, but you can see we've got other air brake wells in the back. We've got different styles of air brakes, both folded closed and open, which is kind of neat. You can deploy them if you so choose. They have detail on both the deployed and the stowed. Who knows if it'll affect the actual fit of the part, but we'll see when we get there. Still, very nice detail. We are given our main wings in two parts, and you can see again, finely recessed panel lines. We do have our gear system up front here, and these will interlock and allow them to swing forward and swing back. So that's kind of interesting. I like that. I've never built a swing wing aircraft before, so this should be pretty cool to do. And of course, other extra pieces and panels and parts and wheelbase covers and landing gear struts, all of that. So a lot of parts and pieces for sure. We also have 3 separate bags filled with ordnance. We've got different launchers, different missiles, both larger air-to-air missiles, smaller air-to-air missiles, as well as, of course, drop tanks and all of that. I don't really know what they are or how they operated, so it's going to be fun looking through references, figuring some of this out. In that little side pouch, we had other parts like the intakes, and here these look pretty decent. We've got molded in louvers, we've got open vents, landing lights on the bottom portion. We also have some fins on the inside of the intakes, some sort of splitter plates, I'm not really sure. Those look pretty cool. I did notice we've got a couple of ejector pin marks here in the back of the intake, but I don't think you're going to see them. Now for the nose cone, apparently the nose cone isn't exactly accurate in shape. Now I don't know 100% because, like I said, I haven't studied the MiG-23. So I don't really know. However, from the kit part, it doesn't look too bad. We are given a front nose mounted pitot tube, so it looks like it just plugs right in there. There is a resin replacement, but I don't think I want to spend any money, but at least we know it's there. Now, Trumpeter does give you a small set of photo etches you can see here. It's nothing along the lines of like what Edward gives you, but it does give you a little bit of extra parts, like for example, the harnesses for the seat belts, the actual seat belts themselves. We have inserts for the air brakes just to kind of spice up a couple of areas. They look pretty decent, so I don't think we're going to have much trouble with it, but we'll know more once we get into them. Hopefully they're not too thick. We are also given 2 separate engine cones. We've got one that is open, as you can see, lots of detail on the outside and the inside, and then one that is closed. So we have some options, which I always love. Now for our clear parts, we're given 2 separate sprues. The first sprue here has our windscreen, which is absolutely beautiful, crystal clear, very nicely molded. So I'm really excited to see how this fits on the model. Hopefully it goes in well. And we have other parts and pieces like, for example, clear corners, windows, all that good stuff. The second sprue is the center portion, and this is not as clear as the windscreen, but it still looks pretty good. So I don't think it's going to be that difficult. It should be fairly simple to mask. That's going to be nice. Now for decals, we're given 3 separate sheets of decals. One, the small one here, is mostly focused on the cockpit. And then we have 2 here in this bag that mostly focus on the major markings and the stencils. There are a lot of stencils here. And I will say one thing that kind of irks me just a little bit is Trumpeter loves to tape this protective covering over top of the decals. Just don't like that practice, because eventually when you go ahead and get to the decals, you have to pull up that tape, and sometimes you actually end up pulling up some of the backing. So it's not one of my favorite practices. We can be very careful and gently remove this tape, but it is something that sometimes removes some of that backing. The decals themselves look pretty good though. As you can see, we've got our single number marking here. We've got all these stencils. This is a lot of stencils, plus our red stars. This is going to take some time. It's going to be a very laborious decaling process. The second sheet is even more stencils, and these are, I believe, not actually for just the aircraft. I think there's a good deal of these that are for different missiles and whatnot. There's a ton of stencils. So this is going to be, like I said, a little time consuming, kind of tedious. And then for the third and final decal sheet, we've got our instrument panels, our side consoles, everything for the cockpit, and they look pretty decent. I'll have to really get in there and compare them against actual pictures of a real MiG-23 cockpit, but they don't look too bad. So hopefully these will be just fine, go on nicely, and conform to all the details, because there's a lot of molded in details on the plastic parts and the side consoles. Now for our instructions, this is a very typical layout that Trumpeter loves to do. It's basically like a book. We open it up, we've got different information regarding the aircraft, then of course going through all the parts and pieces and all the different sprues to give us an idea about what we have and how many parts, and there are a lot of sprues in this particular kit. Then moving on, we go into the cockpit, ejection seat, all the details. We even build up the engine cone, and then eventually drop everything into the fuselage and just move on from there. I'm hoping that the detail here will be sufficient enough. We might have to add in a little bit more, depending on the fit as well. We might have to do a little bit of extra sanding. I've heard there's a couple of areas that are a little tricky, so we'll see when we get there. But everything just buttons up into the fuselage. Everything is closed. This lower fin here is actually going to be folded, as we see in our references. And then we have our sub-assemblies, of course, like the intakes and the different landing gear bays. There's going to be a lot of potential for those landing gear bays to get in there and add in like maybe wires and cables and whatnot for the nose gear, maybe even some other parts and pieces for the intakes and for the wheelbase. So there is some scratch building potential for sure. Now this is a swing wing aircraft, and this model kit does come with movable wings. You've got gears and whatnot that fit together a certain way that when you move the wings, you will be able to swing them out and swing them back in. So that's kind of cool. And then all the other parts and pieces moving on from there. Very simple instructions, very well drawn out. So I don't think there'll be any major questions. I kind of get how this goes together. And finally ending up with our landing gears. And that is going to be a little tricky because these gears aren't your traditional gears. They're shaped a little differently, and I've heard they are a little tricky to put in. Finally, we get over to the ordnance, and the ordnance is going to be a lot of work because you have to assemble a lot of the fins and whatnot for the different missiles. I think the instructions do a really nice job of laying it all out for you, including at the very back a nice diagram showing which station would be holding which weapon, which is actually kind of fun to see. So that is really, really helpful. Everything is mostly hung onto the center portion of the fuselage, and not a lot on the wings, so mostly right here on the shoulders and the center portion of the fuselage. And lastly, guys, we have one piece of paper here that is nicely laminated, very cleanly printed for all of our markings, for all of our colors, for the exterior of the aircraft. And yeah, as you can see, there are a lot of stencils, a lot of little tiny arrows that point to different portions there. We have everything also on the drop tanks, as well as all the ordnance. We have launchers, we have different rails, we have different pylons, missiles, and a lot of them have decals on them, but still beautifully printed. But that is it, guys. That's what we're going to be building over the next couple of weeks, this 1/48 scale MiG-23. I absolutely love the MiG-23. I don't know much about it though, so I'm going to have to go out and find some references because I actually don't own any books. I might have maybe 1 or 2 pages that talk a little bit about it, but I don't know much about the aircraft, its design, its history, any of that. So it's going to be fun learning more about the MiG-23. I don't know how detailed the kit actually is compared to the real life MiG-23, but I guarantee you there will be some options here. We can add in some extra parts, some wires, some pieces, make it look a little bit more custom. But that's it for us today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Until our next episode, you know the drill. Go out there, get yourself some bench time, have some fun, build something cool, and we'll see you back here on episode 2 or we'll jump in and start building us a MiG-23. Thanks for watching, guys. Take care of yourselves, and we'll see you soon.